CURES is sponsored by Wheeler Health's Better Choice program. More at wheelerhealth.org.
Helping you lead a healthier life. This is CURES.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the CURES Show, where we explore cutting-edge wellness from credible sources. Do you feel like your life is a little bit chaotic because of clutter? If so, you are not alone. I know clutter is a sore point for me, even though I'm not always the neatest. But we're here to help with all that, talking about clearing the clutter really in all areas of our life, not just the physical clutter, the mental clutter, emotional clutter as well. And I'm so happy to welcome life coach, educator, and positive living expert, Diane Lang. Diane, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I just want to let everyone know you are a positive psychologist. And if you don't know what that is, could you explain that a little bit?
So for positive psychology, we're kind of on the other side of the field. We're just studying and teaching what makes us happy, what makes us optimistic, gives us a greater sense of well-being. So we're just talking about the other side, coming from a positive perspective.
Yeah. And I know you write a blog and you do lots of teaching on different areas for wellness in our life. But this one really caught my eye because you really were talking about clutter and what clutter can do to us. So let's start with physical clutter. Why do we have it?
So I always like to start off, if you have a lot of physical clutter, it really is connected to emotional clutter. So there's something going on emotionally that's causing the physical clutter. So a lot of times we'll see physical clutter at home because there's something going on at home. And if we see clutter at our workplace, it's usually something going on at our workplace. So it's really figuring out the why behind the physical clutter.
Okay. And when we talk about clutter, I feel like I need to send out clutter warnings to my family because I'm like, I start feeling very overwhelmed when there's a lot of clutter. Like I can't find things, or I just feel like things are a mess and closing in on me. Not everyone feels that way, right? I guess you can have different tolerances for clutter. Does that matter?
Well, the truth is, unless, of course, we're talking about something like a safety issue or a hygiene issue, what's clutter for me might not be clutter for you.
Mm-hmm.
How you know clutter is really affecting you is by how does it affect you when you see it? Does it make you feel stressed, overwhelmed, anxious? So if you're looking at clutter and it changes your mood and makes you feel that way, then obviously it is clutter for you. But I've had a lot of clients where the parent might just say, I love having a lot of stuff. It just feels good. It gives me this warm presence. And their kids will be like, there's too much stuff. There's too much clutter. So again, clutter is different. And we're not talking about hoarding. We're talking about clutter. So as long as there's no safety issue or any issue with hygiene, it's just really a matter of preference for many people.
Okay, can this be a problem for couples? Like my husband, I swear, he does not care. He'll pick up after himself, but it doesn't bother him, I don't think. I have to point it out. If I make the bed, I'm making the bed because I know it's going to make me feel better. For him, he would make it simply for me. He would otherwise see no point in it. So
Right.
How do you deal if you're living with people who have different ideas about clutter?
And that happens all the time. That is something that is very normal where one person is cleaner or just more organized than the other person. So it really is about compromise at that point. If realizing that, you as a spouse come home and you have clutter in a certain area and it's affecting your partner, your significant other, then it's working through to really figure out a place where you're both happy with it. But yes, there's a lot of times where people just disagree on it. I have a client where she told her husband he can have clutter, but only in one specific room. That's his man cave. So she can shut the door and not see the clutter. And this way they don't argue about it, but the clutter cannot leave that area. And as long as it's clean, he can keep it as cluttered as he wants, because clutter does not mean that something's not clean.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Although if there's stuff's all over the counters, you can't really clean the counters. But I get it. Yeah. Okay. No, I
True.
mean,
Good point.
yeah. So, we're going to get to emotional clutter in a moment here, but you bring up a good point that some people are going to have a physical reaction to clutter where they feel very unsafe or overwhelmed. I think for me, it triggers overwhelm. Like when there's a lot of clutter, it's usually because there's a lot going on and I just feel overwhelmed. I'm certainly not perfect, and I'm not one of those people who like everything is perfect because they just live in this neat, magazine quality kitchen. like what's behind you, but we're doing a piece on clutter. So,
Yes.
uh, what does it mean psychologically when we're getting triggered by clutter?
A lot of times it's actually not the clutter, like you said. So think about road rage, just using it as an example. So people will get on the road, and because there's traffic or road work, they start getting overwhelmed, stressed out, and anxious. But it's not really the traffic that's triggering them. It's they've just had a stressful day already, and it's like the straw that broke the camel's back, or they're
Mm,
just feeling so overwhelmed and stressed out at life that the last thing they can deal with is the clutter, the traffic, searching for parking. So a lot of times having clutter, it's really just signifying that something is going on and they're just feeling so stressed and overwhelmed. And a lot of times it's because we're going through a transition or a change in life that's causing us to feel this stress and affecting us when we see the clutter, or it's causing us to have more clutter than we're used to.
yeah.
And that can make us feel more stressed.
Yeah, yeah. So, we're bombarded all the time on our feeds also with what homes should look like, right? The Instagram kitchen, or that kind of thing. Is there something to that we're much like you would uphold yourself to these unrealistic standards with body shape based on what you see with models, that perhaps people are also trying to live in an unrealistic way based on what they're seeing in on social media or Instagram? Constantly there's something about, tackling this, get this organizational product, or make your kitchens look like this, or do this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah, social media does that for all ages. My college students will feel it, and as well as my adult clients, even my clients who are in their 60s or 70s. Social media causes us to compare ourselves to others.
Mm.
And we look at whether it's other bodies, and we're looking at body shaming, and we see people who look perfect no matter what their age is. I see so many people on Instagram or other forms of social media where they're 40 or 50 and 60 and over, and they look perfect, and we know that's not reality, but we kind of get sucked into it. And the same when you're looking, just like my background with the kitchen. It looks perfect. If I took this background down, you would see the reality of what really happens when your house is filled with kids and dogs and people living there. So the first thing is to notice, is this realistic? Am I setting myself up for failure, trying to look, whether it's my home looking a certain way, my office, or even my body, by trying to fit into a mold that doesn't exist? And a lot of times we go for that perfectionism, especially if we're feeling low self worth. So
Mm.
you want to be realistic, and you also want to do what we call a digital detox. You'll know when you've had too much time on social media by the way it makes you feel. Do that mind body connection. Think about, where do you hold stress, anxiety, overwhelm on your body? We all hold it on our body. When you start feeling it, like for me, it's in my stomach. I
Me
feel like
too.
someone's in there wringing a washcloth. And
Mm.
when I feel that, that is a sign that it's time to make a change, whether it's time to get up and get off social media, whether it's time to stop cleaning and decluttering and just take a break, get a change of scenery, or just stop what you're doing, take a few deep breaths, add in some mindfulness, and realize that I'm getting stressed, I'm getting overwhelmed, I just need a break.
Mm.
And that can really help. So mindfulness is a great tool, with whether it's, social media for body shaming or for your perfect house.
Yeah, and there's that word perfect, that we could get into perfectionism about, clutter. I want to talk about emotional clutter though, because sometimes it's a physical clutter, and we might have to lower our standards a little bit. Say, listen, I live in a house with a lot of busy people, with teens and kids, and I've tried to work on that in my years too, of reminding myself it's good enough, not feeling so bad that it doesn't
Right.
look perfect. But what about emotional clutter? What is that when it's more internal?
So emotional clutter is the clutter in our mind that's going off. It's rumination of negativity. And everybody's negative loop looks different. So it could be along the lines of, I'm not good enough, nothing I do is good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, I'm not smart enough, I'm not organized enough. Any of those types of thoughts that we have that are on repeat. And we all have a negative loop. So it's really starting to be mindful of what we're saying to ourselves over and over again. We can be our worst enemy, and we can actually bully ourselves. And the way we talk to ourselves would never be the way we talk to somebody who we loved and cared about. We don't give ourselves the same compassion, kindness, or empathy we would for somebody else. So the first step here is, what is your negative loop? What's going on repetitively in your mind, and paying attention to it. And again, it's not noticing every word or sentence you say. It's about what repetitive words and phrases do I notice keep coming up for me when I'm, wake up in the morning, right before I go to bed, when I have moments alone, whether it's because I'm going to the bathroom and I'm walking and nothing's in my ear, I'm not listening to anything, whether it's sitting in the car and I haven't put the radio on yet. Maybe someone's hurt my feelings. I'm just not feeling myself. What keeps coming up for me? That negative loop will tell you a lot about what you're holding on to that's causing that clutter. And remembering, when we have a lot of emotional clutter, it could lead to physical clutter that we're seeing at our houses and our offices.
Okay. So when we're perhaps noticing that loop,
Mhm.
the thoughts can feel super real, right? Like, I'm not good
Yeah.
enough, or I'm not, that
Mhm.
person keeps their house so clean, or that person's, doing all this. I'm not good enough. This is falling apart. This is falling apart. I forgot to pay that bill. Whatever the conversation is that someone's
Mhm.
having with, I call it the angry roommate in your head. What do you do when that's happening?
So the first thing is becoming self-aware. So again, what I have a lot of my clients do is, for about a week, just kind of write down, whether you're writing it on a post-it or using your phone, the common words and phrases that are negative that you keep repeating. I'm not good enough, not smart enough, why am I so stupid? Whatever it is, whatever you're saying to yourself, write it down. Notice it, become self-aware, because you can't stop the thoughts if you're not aware of them.
Okay.
Once you become aware of them, then you want to stop yourself. When you hear that negative thought playing in your head, which we do, that loop that goes over, you want to just stop. And the first thing you want to do is stop, acknowledge it, acknowledge what you're hearing. Know that it's that, it's there. We don't want to judge it, though. There's no judgment. It is just a thought. And then you want to challenge that thought. You might want to ask yourself some questions like, is this thought, belief that I'm holding on to, is it even true?
Okay.
Is it based on truth or fact? A lot of them are not. Or is this an old, outdated belief that I'm holding on to? Sometimes we hold on to something that might have been true 10, 20 years ago, but it becomes like a downloaded belief system, like a computer program that we've downloaded, and we just say it out of habit. And we're not even aware that we're on autopilot doing it. So sometimes it's just stopping ourselves and going, is this old? Is this outdated? Is this even true or based on fact? And right there, once we start challenging the thoughts, we can stop them. But again, being aware of them and stopping, and then challenging those thoughts.
So you wrote a book called Worthy, and I know you also teach
Mhm.
different places. Some of what you recommend is positive affirmations. If you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're having a lot of clutter in your life, if you're having a lot of cluttered thoughts, give us some advice if some of those thoughts, which I imagine they are for some, is that they go back to the, maybe I'm not worthy of this, or we all want a little more freedom or grace or ease in our life, and you're thinking, you just pack your schedule and you're doing one more thing and one more thing, and they're over busy. So
Right.
how can we start to change those patterns to create real change of maybe a less cluttered environment and, of course, a less cluttered mind?
Well, first, you said this before. We never want to strive for perfection. And perfectionism is a sign of low self worth. We feel like if we can't do it perfectly, then why do it at all? We don't want people to see that we make mistakes or that we might have a setback. When the truth is, if you're human, you're going to have mistakes, setbacks, and failures. So we don't want to strive for perfection. We want to strive for being our best, being our version of excellent. And that's one way to just think about that, just stopping right there. Am I using the word perfect? What can I do to shift that? And again, trying to be your best is so important.
Mm.
And not really setting yourself up for failure by going for that perfection. Because I see that from so many people, whether it's my students or at work, where we have this imposter syndrome that we're afraid that people will think that we're not good enough at work. Even though we have the experience or the degrees or the credentials, we still have this fear. So we want to reduce our stress and anxiety as well, because when we're very stressed out and anxious, we go on autopilot. And that is one way that all that negative loop goes, that we don't even notice it. So adding mindfulness into your routines, your morning routine, your evening routine, wherever you can find it. And it doesn't have to be a long time. I know a lot of people think of mindfulness and they think about taking a yoga class or meditating for 20, 30 minutes. Mindfulness can be as simple as using that mind body connection, feeling the stress on your body, and taking 2 to 3 minutes to just close your eyes and deep breathe, which is
Mm-hmm.
important because when we're stressed or anxious or overwhelmed, we either tend to hold our breath or we shallow breathe, which makes us more shaky and jittery. So just stopping and taking deep breaths for 2 to 3 minutes. Just take an inhale through your nose, hold, exhale through your mouth. Do that on repeat for a few minutes. Go outside now that the weather's getting nicer. If it would stay that way and that spring comes, we can sit outside in nature and we could do some grounding where we just use our senses and we notice what's going on around us in the environment. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you touch? And that could all bring us back to the present moment. Because when we're stressed and anxious and overwhelmed, we're either in the past, thinking about what we should have done, what we could have done, thinking about regrets, or we're carrying all that baggage with us. If not, we're in the future. We have anticipatory anxiety. We're worried about what might happen, what could happen. But when I'm in the present, I'm calmer, I'm more productive, I'm more creative. I reduce my stress hormone, cortisol. I lower blood pressure, I reduce chronic pain, and I self-soothe in the moment. And that's where we can find ourselves through the day if we just add in a little mindfulness, getting back to the here and now and reducing some of our stress and anxiety.
Okay. So good reminder that if you are feeling super anxious, you're likely future tripping, thinking about the future. And if you're doing the woulda, shoulda, coulda, you're probably in the past. So
Yeah.
cultivating that present moment awareness. Now, let's say in a house, like I would think most people who watch this show, you might be a busy family or you're a woman and you're probably handling a lot of things. We tend to do a lot of the house care in our lives. So if you're walking into your home and you're feeling really overwhelmed and you're about to start maybe yelling at the people who didn't put stuff away, or you're going to lash out at your kids or lash out at your husband, you're just going to feel bad about it later. But this clutter is a
Right.
big deal for us. What's your advice for handling that? Because I imagine that happens to a lot of people a lot of times.
It's really preparing and planning for it, knowing when you're going to go into a stressful environment. So if it's at home or it's the office, it doesn't matter where. If you know you're going to feel stressful, you want to stop before you go in. So knowing the areas that trigger the most stress. And for everybody, it's different. And again, you can use that mind body connection. Are you pulling into your driveway after a long day of work and sitting in traffic? You're starting to get stressed out, knowing you're going into a house that's going to be filled with, chaos because all the kids are running around and it's dinner time. And you're going to be the one who has to clean up, make dinner, do the dishes. Before you even step foot into the home, start the breathing. Just start. Again, take 2 to 3 minutes, close your eyes, start breathing. Just literally slow yourself down. You don't want to do deep breathing, or for a lot of my clients, they're saying it's allergy season and they can't breathe that well. You can do stretching. Just sit in your car. And again, knowing where you hold the tension on your body, stretch it out. If it's your neck, your shoulders, your back, just start stretching it. I'm just doing a little bit here. You can do it sitting. You can get out of your car and do it standing. But stretching is another form of mindfulness. And for a lot of my clients, they are preventative and they start their day with a mindfulness technique that they do what we call like a brain dump, where you just have a journal and a piece of paper. I'm going old school, paper and pen,
Yeah.
where you write out whatever's on your mind, just writing it out to release it, not holding on to that stress, not holding on to the negativity, putting it on paper. And when they're done, to keep it as a journal and then look back to see how far you've come or notice patterns, self-awareness. Or I have some clients who like to rip it up, like they're ripping up the negativity for the day. I have a client who puts it through her paper shredder because she works from home, but just releasing it. But again, adding that mindfulness in before you even step foot into the stress, and learning and being self-aware of what are your stressors and triggers so you can be preventative.
Yeah. I love your firebox analogy and our firebox tool. We're going to hear about that in just a second, but let's hear a quick word from our sponsor and then we'll come back with a great tool.
Struggling with gambling? Wheeler Health's Better Choice program offers personalized support and treatment to help you regain control. Visit wheelerhealth.org to learn more and take the first step towards recovery today.
All right, we're back now talking about clutter, both physical clutter, emotional clutter, the physical clutter that can maybe cause emotional reactions. We all have probably some of it in our life, but what is it representing and how can we handle it? I am here with Diane Lang. She's a psychologist and an author and a teacher, and she has a tool that she says the Firebox tool. So what do we need to know about the Firebox and clutter?
So the firebox is one of my favorite. When you're decluttering your house, think of it this way. Let's say there was a fire in your house. Everybody's out safe, right? Your family's out, kids are out, the dogs, the animals, everybody's safe. And the fireman says to you, you have about 10 minutes or so to run in with this one box. I want you to go fill it up with whatever you need. So you go in your house and you think about what is it that you want to hold on to. These are your non-negotiables, whether you're downsizing, your kids tell you it's time to move and you're going in from a home where you raised your kids and downsizing to a condo or townhome. What do you put in that box? Now that looks different for everybody. For some people, it's more personal things such as cards and pictures and mementos that they hold on to. For other people, they run in and they just want their passport and their birth certificate and the title of their car. It's different for everybody, but these are your non-negotiable.
Yeah.
These are the things that follow you wherever you go. When my mom moved from New York to New Jersey, we had one of those boxes. She put everything in this box and then she moved into assisted living and then a nursing home. That box came with her everywhere. It was the non-negotiables. None of us 5 kids had any say in it. These were her things. And that's what you want to keep. And that holds a lot of memories for people because when we're downsizing and decluttering, we don't want to remove the memories. We just want to get rid of the stuff. And by holding on to pictures or scrapbooks or mementos, we can hold on to all of those memories and experiences without carrying all the clutter and the stuff with us.
Yeah, I still remember back in the day when we used to watch the Oprah show and like we might be holding on to clothes and things like that because they had a special
Yes.
memory. And they suggested, the experts, that if you have a dress or something that, you know, rather than keeping it for your whole life, and I've been going through my father's stuff, like all the stuff he saved when he passed, rather than keeping that article of clothing for your whole life and moving it around wherever you go, that you might want to just keep a picture of it instead.
Oh, yeah, we tell that all the time. And to a lot of clients, we have them make scrapbooks where they have maybe 2 or 3 scrapbooks with all pictures in it. And you can even put like little, there's stickers where you can put dates and what was going on. Because people just want the memories. So when
Okay.
we save the memories, instead of, saving the clothes, or maybe it's the furniture where you had your, first child and you sat there on your first Christmas, whatever it is, having it in an album or with pictures or even digital, if you'd rather do a digital frame with all the pictures on it, that holds the memories. And memories are really what we want. Memories and experiences cultivate happiness. So it is important to keep those.
Okay. Yeah. So if you have someone like, I sometimes when I get overwhelmed, I'll just want to like clear everything and then, important things could get thrown away. So you're rushed to do it. You have something like my husband who really wants to take his time and make sure you're not throwing away something valuable. Like this is my mother's high school ID. It's the only one left. Like, who has that? But he does. So if you're very sentimental, but yet you don't want clutter, because we accumulate so much throughout our lives. You get an award for this, an award for that, a trophy when you were 15, so it's hard to determine. What's your advice about wanting to honor the sentimentality, but maybe not keep all the items?
Well, that might go in your husband's firebox where he keeps some of that stuff, and that's fine. But, again, if there's things in your life that you love, that give you pleasure, enjoyment, make you feel good, those things you want to keep.
Okay.
If it's something that you're just holding on to, that you don't use, that you don't love, that doesn't give you enjoyment, then you do want to reduce, our stuff. And how we get rid of it's important too. Are we giving it away where it becomes a random act of kindness because we see other people using it? That makes us feel good. And then again, how are we holding on to it? I had a client where they were downsizing, but she did not want to get rid of anything in her living room, the furniture, everything, because it was where she raised all her kids and had their first holidays together. And again, we did the scrapbook. We took pictures. We made a scrapbook that was just about the holidays in that room, and then took out 2 or 3 things that were non-negotiables that went into the firebox and then called it a day. Because again, we can't hold on to everything as much as we would like to.
Right, right. And then there's also the people who just are fine, right? They move to a new place. They sell their houses furnished. They're just they're not really attached to items. What's the psychology behind that? That seems freeing.
You know what? I don't know if there's really anything behind it, but I have to tell you, I am one of those people.
You
I
are.
moved from Long Island to New Jersey, and for years, I didn't even have pictures up in my house. I just don't have an attachment to things. And I'm not even sure why. It's just kind of who I am. Some people are more sentimental and have that attachment. Others don't feel the need for stuff to be attachment, but just letting you know, it doesn't mean that they don't have the memories in their head.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that they don't think about it. But for me, I actually have one of those fireboxes where it's right underneath my desk where I have some stuff from high school and college and maybe even younger, but it's not even a full box. It's like a shoebox size. So it depends. But my daughter, she won't get rid of anything. She has every card from since she was born, and she's 22. So it's different for everybody, and we should never judge it. It's what feels good for the person.
Okay. In our final 2 minutes, I also want to just talk about stuff. You know, if you think about, I studied when I was in college. I lived with a family in Spain, and I was amazed that they had 8 kids. They did not all live there at the time, but she raised this house, 3 bedrooms with 8 kids, and a tiny kitchen, and they just didn't have like they were amazed by there's no such thing as buy 2 get 5 free or something over there. But we in America, especially, the bigger the house, the more expensive the car, the stuff makes us think that we're successful. So in just a minute, like, what can you say about that?
So keeping up with the Joneses does not do that. Just to put that out there, for long-term happiness, the number one factor would be socialization. We're looking at having a support system, having fun, having a sense of community and positive relationships. Memories and experiences can buy us happiness. So instead of spending your money on the huge house and all the jewelry and the stuff, buy a family trip where you go away for 10 days, build those memories and experiences. We get short-term happiness for things. So if you buy your favorite, piece of jewelry, you get that dream car, first few weeks to a few months, you'll feel great. But then after a while, it's like, just what's next?
Yeah.
And that's what you're always looking for. So we're not going to find that long-term happiness with our keeping up with the Joneses or stuff. Really, memories, experiences, and socialization, relationships, top factors.
Meaning over the material, meaning and memories over just material things. Diane Lang is a positive psychologist, author of the book Worthy. You can find that anywhere, I believe. So, but also DianeLang.com, right? That's where we get all of your information and your blog.
DianeLang.org.
DianeLang.org. Okay. Thank you, Diane, for being with us. I hope all of you benefited from this. I'm ready to start decluttering again. Have a great day, everyone, and be well.
CURES is sponsored by Wheeler Health's Better Choice program. More at wheelerhealth.org.